On today's episode, you'll hear from a small marketing team that knows how to get things done. This is the Be a Marketer podcast.
Be a Marketer.
My name is Dave Charest, Director of Small Business Success at Constant Contact, and I help small business owners like you make sense of online marketing. And on this podcast, we'll explore what it really takes to market your business, even if marketing's not your thing. No jargon, no hype, just real stories to inspire you and practical advice you can act on. So remember, friend, you can be a marketer. And at Constant Contact, we're here to help. Well, hello, friend. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Be a Marketer podcast. And calm down. I know you're excited because, yes, Kelsey Carter's here. Hi, Kelsey Carter.
Hi, Dave Charest. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic as always. Great to see you. I don't know if I have much to talk to you about today.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks, huh?
It's one of those days. You know, I'm excited about our conversation today because I think in many ways, the business that we're about to talk to, they're a business that's been around for a while. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But someone I think that creates an environment that reminds me a lot of just the environment that we have at Constant Contact as well. It's not as big as our business, of course, but just in terms of how they look internal to grow talent and those types of things. We're talking to a couple of people that are within the marketing field. So these are folks that have marketing caps on versus our typical business owner, but folks working for a small business. You want to tell us a little bit about our guests today?
Of course. Yeah, guests plural. So we have two. So today's guests are Marc Newberry and Jasmin Bollman. Marc is the creative director and Jasmin is the marketing manager for Genumark, which is Canada's leader in custom branded merch and apparel. They offer end-to-end solutions, including custom web stores, warehousing, and international fulfillment. And they even have a strong focus on sustainability and ethical sourcing and became a certified B Corporation in 2023.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, this is a family-owned business that's been around since 1980. So kudos to them. Clearly, they've been doing something right. And the company is also now expanding into the U.S. in Chicago, New York, and Kansas City. They now have offices. And as I mentioned, we're talking to some folks with those marketing hats on. Marc has been around the company for about over 14 years. Jasmin, newer to the company, about a year or so in. And what I love about this conversation is we really got to get a bit into the weeds of how a small marketing team, they've got a team of 4 total, and how do they actually get things done using Constant Contact? And we talked about things that they've learned through the years, just in terms of why you need to humanize your messages, the most impactful 30 minutes that they spend on email marketing, and how they get employees involved in the game of asking people to sign up for their list as well. So back in January of 2024, both Marc and Jasmin worked on a rebrand of Genumark. So let's go to Marc as he tells us more about that project.
So we rebranded in January. Before that, it was a big, long discussion of something that was going to happen. We've kind of had the same brand for a number of years. We were overdue a refresh for sure. It's often a little bit more complicated when there's a few more cooks in the kitchen. Like we had myself, Jasmin, Mitch, and Marc the other Marc were involved, Marc Freed. And we just had to make sure everyone was kind of on board with the same idea, which is a little tricky sometimes when there's multiple generations, multiple different personal tastes and all that kind of stuff. So it's something that we were excited about. It's something that our employees were excited about as well. It's definitely kind of given us a breath of fresh air. And that kind of coincided with us becoming a B Corp as well, and then expanding into the US. So it was kind of like this feeling of like a bit of a new age for Genumark, and not a new beginning, but a kind of evolution.
Yeah. Well, Jasmin, I'm curious from your side. I mean, was there a change in voice that happened with this as well, or was it just a visual type of feeling?
The change in voice had been slowly happening since I had started as a freelancer. But with this, I was finally able to really put my vision into writing in our new sort of style guidebook and explain a bit more to the company as a whole, sort of, what my reasoning was behind why I wanted us to talk a certain way. I've always been a big proponent of the way that you talk online should be the way that you talk to somebody face to face, just like you're speaking with a friend, because authenticity is what's going to make people connect with you and really gravitate towards you when they're thinking of who they want to do business with. So that process of changing the voice had already sort of been in motion, but it just became more solidified, more real when we did the official rebrand. I was just, it was great to finally have it down in writing, because it was something it's funny because I do the writing for a living, but to actually sit down and explain why I'm writing things a certain way was just, it always kind of was on my to-do, but
it's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
What does the planning process look for you guys when it comes to marketing? You walk me through it here, but I got to assume there's some type of business goals that you're kind of trying to map to. Like, what does that look like for you two and your team?
We have kind of like a work back schedule, I guess. I guess our month ends with our email blast that we send out, Merch Makers Monthly. And that's kind of a collection of all the work that we've done during that month. So we would kind of do 2-3 blog posts a month. Usually that's interviewing someone within our industry or a case study of a client, or it's some news that we have for the company. So it could be any number of those things. Then we have kind of loose rules that we set for our kind of social media. So we would feature stylized lifestyle shots of products that we love, often B Corp suppliers that we love, or ones that definitely have a responsible eco story to them. And then we also do stuff like on LinkedIn, whether it's kind of cross-posting with Mitch Fried or stuff that he's sharing. And then that kind of all gets gathered up at the end of the month and gets put into our newsletter, which Jasmin said was kind of magazine style. And it kind of outlines all the stuff we've done throughout that month. So the constant contact email that we send out at the end is a collection of all the things that we've shared during that month. And it's a really nice kind of way to wrap everything up. And it kind of keeps it fresh. It keeps it engaging. The content on there is quite varied. So we have really good interaction with it because there's such a cross section of things on there. So one person might not be interested in the case study that we did because it's not specific to their industry, but they might be interested in the cool new company that we've featured on our Instagram post that they might not have seen because they're not following us on Instagram. So it's a really nice way to kind of wrap everything up and kind of tie everything together. And we kind of always work back from there and have a schedule of what we're going to accomplish for the month.
One of the interesting things that you're doing, I'd love you to talk through your thinking and the strategy behind this, but I think what you're doing in terms of just sending that newsletter from a person at the company, I guess I love that. And it's a different way to kind of think about segmentation, right? But talk me through that. What was the strategy behind that and how is that working for you?
It's kind of what I've always done since I've been using email software to help send out emails. It's basically because we have such a load of account managers. We have, I think it's 40 or 50 account managers nationwide, now in the States as well. And like Jasmin was saying, if you're just receiving kind of info at emails or just ones that aren't coming from the person at that company, then they get lost in the pile. No one opens them. No one really cares. I know that I get tons of emails every day that I don't even open just because they're generic. They're sent out to everybody. So I've always found that making sure that I send out emails that are coming from the specific account manager always gets a better interaction with the people that are opening them. Not only that, but then once they respond to that email, they can also reply to that person. And then that kind of takes us out of the equation. And then they're dealing directly with the account manager, which is who they need to get to at the end of the day anyway.
Okay.
That just saves everyone a bunch of time having to be like, oh, your client reached out to us, you should follow up with them. Whereas now they just do that directly with their contact. It just makes it more personal. And we're a company that likes to think that we're approachable, we're always available, we're kind of on name terms with our clients. They know us. So why wouldn't they get an email from James Wilson in Winnipeg when that's their account manager?
So what does the process to do this look like for you then? Who's actually sending the emails? Is it one of you two or is it somebody else? Or
Jasmin and I would work on it. Jasmin writes the copy. I would kind of set up the visual and then I would kind of schedule them.
Gotcha. So from a scheduling perspective, walk me through how you're doing it to make sure that they're coming from, right? Yeah.
Right. Well, basically, we make sure we have all the account managers down as a verified email. The Genumark.com domain's verified. So then we just have to make sure that they make sure that they've verified the email from Constant Contact to give me the permission to send an email on their behalf. Then what happens is I have email contact lists set up for each account manager On our website, we also have a directory where you have sign up to my email list, and that would sign that client up to their specific email list. So I have an email list set up for each account manager that enables them to have their clients on it only. So then once that's all set up in place, when I actually schedule an email, once I've set up the Merch Makers Monthly, how it looks, feels, Jasmine's written the copy. The first one's always Aaron Greenberg because he's AA. So then in the from field, I'd put Aaron Greenberg, Genumark. I'd make sure the to and the from email addresses are Aaron. And then I would go through that process, select the list that is relevant to Aaron's clients. So I'd check that off. Then I would schedule it. Once that's scheduled, I would just copy that email and just go down the list. It takes a bit of time. Usually it's about half an hour and I've done them all, but it's half an hour well spent because we're getting way better feedback, interaction, click-through rates, open rates, and then also the client is also emailing them directly when they have any questions. So then the time saved from us having to
be the middleman.
Yeah, having to be the middleman with all those extra requests is, I'm sure if you add it up, it's more than half an hour it takes me to send out those emails to begin with.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, I love that approach. I think that's really great. So are there any other things that you're doing just in terms of creating lists, or are you using tags within Constant Contact? Like, what does that look like for you?
We do tags sometimes. We do a bunch of events. We have one coming up in September. We have the PPPC National Convention, which is the biggest promotional products convention in Canada. So we invite a bunch of clients to that. We do that through Constant Contact. We create an event and then we sign up people through that platform. So I would tag those people that sign up with NatCon24, just so I know that they were signed up via that specific avenue. So I do that periodically. At these events, we often do kind of like prize giveaways, or we try and encourage people to sign up to our email that aren't already. So I set up forms where they can fill out forms, they can register themselves, they can select what account manager they have, so it auto signs them up to that email list. I forget the platform it is. It's like an app that's associated with Constant Contact where it all kind of links up. You don't have to be online, which is really handy. And then what you do is you take the app and you get online and it kind of syncs everything together. I forget what the app's called though, but we use that and that kind of tags things with these people signed up through this avenue. So it's kind of handy to know how people are getting onto our email newsletters. Other than that, I don't know if I use tags in any other ways.
Got it. Jasmin, for you, what does your workflow look like? And just in terms of like what you're creating, like, are you writing someplace else? And then I guess who's moving that into Constant Contact? Like, what does all that look like?
Yeah. So the way that it usually works is that I'll write something just in a Microsoft Word document. It's just the easiest for my brain to process. And thankfully, Marc understands what I mean when I highlight something and say image here, So generally, I'll just write something in Word. I'll go through everything we did that month and pick out the things that I think would be the most interesting to the audience. And then I'll kind of write like the main draft. And then as Marc is inputting things into Constant Contact with the imagery and the design, we'll sort of discuss like, hey, do we think that this part should be removed for our US audience because it's not very relevant? Or should we change, this word to, not have the U, that kind of stuff. So there's like a main document that he works from, and then there's a collaborative process to sort of refine it as we're adding it into Constant Contact and make sure that everything is going to be relevant to the people that are receiving it.
Well, I'm curious from both of you, I guess, like when you start thinking about the work that you have to do and in terms of what you're doing from the marketing activities and things like that, like, how are you getting that stuff done? Did you have different approaches? I mean, I'm sure you have different ways you do things, but like, are you putting time in your calendar? Like, what does that look like to actually get those things that you need to get done?
We all work from home most of the time. And so a lot of it is just making sure we're being very open and honest with each other about, what we have going on today and just trying to keep each other accountable. I feel like we're really good at that and about just checking in and saying, hey, do you need help with something? But also we use the Basecamp software. We have our list of our weekly tasks that we need to get done, post on Instagram, that kind of thing. And we can check it off. I find that very satisfying when I can check off a task. But then we also have our bigger picture stuff in there too. So it'll be maybe in Q3, we want to make sure that we're launching a sustainability guide. And so what's all the stuff we need to do to be able to launch there? We'll break it down into different tasks and assign them to each other. And then it's really about just communication, especially when you're not working in the same location. And I think we're really good at communicating, which is a part of the reason why, even though we're a small team, we get so much done. And I'm sure that maybe to people on the outside, they think that our team is a lot bigger just because of the output that we do. But it's because we are very organized and we are very good at keeping each other on track.
Yeah. I'm curious, Marc, you mentioned some of the things that you're doing just in terms of like, you have like the landing pages set up for people to join the list. I mean, it seems like you've done a great job growing the list. I think you're upwards of, 14,000 contacts or whatever. Are there any particular strategies that you're implementing to get people on that list? Like, I guess, what are the ways people are getting in? And like, our account managers like saying like, hey, sign up for this list. Like, what does that look like?
We encourage our account managers to ask their clients to. And then obviously due to the anti-spamming laws, it's like difficult than ever to get people to sign up because they have to like double opt in and all that kind of stuff. So it's tricky. In our email signatures, we have banners that advertise our flip books, but then also periodically we have like kind of sign up to our newsletter links that are down there as well. So we encourage people to sign up through those. There's the buttons on our website under everyone's profile that we have. And then there's the kind of push for signups at events and things like that as well. So there's a number of different ways we can go about it. What we're going to start doing is we're going to try and like get more people to sign up just by getting them to opt in. We have like our software that we use for like kind of project management that not necessarily my team uses, but like everybody else. So we do have like tons of emails that are not on these lists. So I think we need to kind of ask those people to join up because we're not reaching our full audience. But with the kind of double opt-in thing, it's difficult to make that happen. When those laws came into place, we basically asked everyone to opt in again and our list shrank. Now we're kind of gradually growing it back up again, but it's a constant battle to do that.
I'm curious, maybe from both of your point of views, but what would it be like trying to do what you do without constant contact? Jasmin, maybe I'll go to you first.
I'm a big believer in email. I think that people have been saying email marketing is dead for decades, but I really don't think it's true. I think it's always going to be the best way to reach people, but you have to make sure you're doing it smartly. Marc was saying, I mean, it's all about personalization. You want people to feel like this email is actually for them. It's not just some generic thing. But I really feel like email is something that people need to focus on more. Don't believe when people say that it's dying. It's really not. I mean, it's the best way to reach people. I find that more and more people are kind of opting out of social media. I mean, maybe not completely logging off, but they're not checking it as much. And the way that the algorithm works, I mean, you never know if your post is going to get shown to someone. Maybe it will, but it might not be timely. I mean, you might see it 7 days later, and perhaps it was an event and people are like, oh, I would have went, but I didn't see it. But if you can send an email, I mean, that's going to hit their inbox. They're going to see that and they're going to engage with it if it's personalized to them. So I'd say constant contact it's invaluable. It's going to help us to reach people that, aren't checking Instagram or LinkedIn or, yeah.
I think the fact that constant contact kind of encompasses events and it like does our email marketing and that's kind of like all in one place really helps me personally. It like saves time. I don't have to kind of like worry about having two programs that I have to kind of coordinate things with. It's just all in one place. That really helps, like having all those things in one spot. Doing stuff without constant contact would be difficult. If we had no email software at all to do this with, it would be difficult to reach our clients. We know that the people that have signed up for those lists want to be on our lists. So even though our numbers might not be as high as before the anti-spamming law days, we know that every one of those people actually want to receive emails from us, and not only want to receive emails from us, but want to receive emails from their specific rep. So it's priceless because our reps can focus on their jobs. They can focus on learning about new products, learning about kind of the latest decoration technique, and then we can focus on targeting their products with all the news and the info and the stuff that we've posted about throughout that month. So it's definitely an amazing tool that aids us in keeping constant contact with our
It's always a great moment when that comes up because you're not the first person to do that. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
It's a good name, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So I'm curious, what would be your just best piece of advice for like other marketing managers?
So authenticity is the biggest thing. It's everything, really. I mean, because if I'm on Instagram and I see a brand jumping on a meme or using a sound that everyone else is using, but it doesn't really make sense with their brand. And then it just kind of loses the effect that they were intending, and they end up just kind of blending into the crowd. But what you want to do is stand out. And the only way you can do that is by being authentic and by talking like yourselves. So I would say, don't worry about necessarily what everyone else is doing. Don't worry about hopping on the latest trend if it doesn't make sense for your brand. The biggest thing you can do is be you, and people will connect with that and they'll remember you because of it. So when they do, like maybe they don't need to buy your product right at that moment, but in a week, a month, a year, they'll be like, oh, I remember that brand. I really liked that post they did, and that's how you get people to connect with you, is being you.
Mark, would you have a constant contact specific tip?
I think what we've done in the past is we haven't been that consistent. We haven't really had a plan. And now that we've kind of got into this rhythm of consistently putting out content every month, we have like a specific theme. We have like sections that we hit. The clients are kind of expecting that content now. It's definitely consistency in timing, content, and visuals is definitely key to kind of making the email marketing work as well as it can. I think that's something that we've got better at recently. And it's definitely the biggest piece of advice I would give to others is just doing those three things: consistency in timing, content, and visuals. And then once you've done that, if you've got that extra time to send out emails from those specific people that I was asking for, I think that's the most priceless thing that we do. Having those emails coming from the account managers rather than the info@Genumark email is definitely the best half an hour I spend in my marketing week or month.
Well, friend, let's recap some items from that discussion. Number 1, humanize your communications. Both Jasmin and Marc emphasized that storytelling is central to their brand and their client marketing. They aim to use authentic language that mirrors how people talk in real life. They want the brand voice to feel approachable and friendly. This authenticity in brand voice strengthens those customer relationships and makes their marketing efforts more relatable and engaging. Number 2, calendar your work. Despite their small team, Marc and Jasmin produce a high volume of quality content by staying organized. Their marketing plan works backwards from their monthly newsletter, allowing them to get things done on time. They also ensure consistency with their social media posts, blog content, and other email campaigns. The lesson here: even a small marketing team of 1 can achieve big impact by maintaining a structured marketing calendar. Number 3, personalize your emails. Instead of sending emails from a generic info@email address, Genumark personalizes each email to appear as if it's coming from the recipient's assigned account manager. This segmented, personalized approach increases open rates, click-through rates, and direct client engagement. So look for ways to use email personalization so you can build trust and improve engagement, making recipients more likely to read and respond. Here's your action item for today. Personalize your email marketing like Genumark. If you're sending email campaigns, send your from email address from a generic company email to a real person's name. Then you can see what impact this has on your open rates and engagement. Just make sure it's a from name the recipient will recognize. More details on adding account email addresses in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Be a Marketer podcast. Please take a moment to leave us a review. Just go to ratethispodcast.com/BAM. Your honest feedback will help other small business marketers like yourself find the show. That's ratethispodcast.com/BAM. Well, friend, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and continued success to you and your business.